Hi, I'm Brian Mo, a seasoned software developer and educator. Welcome to my Udemy course on building a student report system. In this course, you learn how to create a robust system to manage student records effortlessly. You'll be able to add new students, input exam results, and generate comprehensive reports with ease. We'll cover everything from setting up your development environment to deploying your application. You will master Laravel Livewire, and by the end of this course, you'll have built a fully functional student report system. Here's what some of my students have to say about my courses. I'm here to guide you every step of the way. Join me in this exciting journey and take your development skills to the next level. Enroll now and get started. Alright guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Now in this video, we're going to look at creating the database schema. And when you talk about the database schema, we're talking about the overall database that is the tables and how the tables are going to be arranged, and of course how they are going to interact with each other. So that's the entire database schema. Now with this database schema, the first table is going to be classes table. So within the classes table, what we have here is we're going to have a table for classes, of course, for our student report system, which is going to have an ID, a name, and you can see the data types, the being int and the varchar or the variable character. So this has to be the first table. Why? Because when you look at, for example, the streams table, it has a foreign key, which is the class ID. So this basically means that it has ID and name, and it needs to be the second table, because when you look at each other table, so we have, for example, the exams table, we have the foreign key, which is subject ID. Of course, it is referencing this ID within the subjects table. The students table, now it has the ID of the student, name of that student, admission number, and then here the form is going to be, for example, the form, for example, because I'm coming from Kenya, in Kenya, we have what we call the Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4. So these are the different classes. So for example, take the data type of unsigned big int. Now, we also have the form ID. So the form ID, of course, this one is it's referencing the type of the class. For example, of course, you are talking about class ID here. So here we have the form ID, which is going to be, of course, the foreign key, which is coming from the form. So the form and then the form ID, foreign key. Now, when you look at the exams table, which is the next table here, is that we have the ID, of course, student ID, foreign key, subject ID, foreign key, and then the rest of the items such as exam 1, exam 2, exam 3. So basically this means that we'll have the ID of the student, then the subject ID could be, for example, English. So within English, we have, for example, the student got, let's say, 20 out of 30, 25 out of 30, and then the last one he got, let's say, 50 out of 70. So this is what we mean by exam 1, exam 2, exam 3. And then we now get the average of that. And then we determine the grade. For example, this grade could be B, A, C, like that. And then the points. So the points, for example, based on the grade, if you got B, so the points could be 9 or 8. So it depends on the education system here in Kenya. But in your case, it could be different. Then the position, basically we are calculating the position based on the other students. For example, in this subject, what position was that student? For example, in English, so it is a position per the subject. So what the student first compared to or other students within that stream. For example, the stream, of course, within, actually not the stream, but within the entire class. For example, Form 1. So we get the position. Then the remarks, of course, this means excellent, of course. And then I'm going to show you I'm going to show you the report form so that you can see what I'm talking about. Then the teacher, and then the rest. Now, student details, of course, you're going to have some details about, for example, we get, of course, the foreign key, which is student ID. And then here we have the primary school the student attended, and then what did he get in the KCP year. This is from Kenya. And then, of course, KCP marks and position and so forth. So we are just going to have this one at a place. So this one is going to be just student details on top of the report form. Now we have student activities, and here basically we mean that the activities, for example, the student is in a club of science, is in a sports or football, house comment, a teacher comment, just some the activities within. So within the report form is going to capture student activities. What does the student do in extra, of course, non-curricular activities. So we are going to have that one captured there. Right, and the last thing here we're going to have is the school settings here. And the school settings here is just basically going to have what we call the school name, of course, the current here, the term start date, for example, when the term is starting, the term end date, and then of course you're going to have so you're going to have those and then the term is, for example, term 2, term 3, term 1, just like that. So that's our entire database schema that we are going to work with. So remember, these tables, you're going to create them as they follow each other, starting with the classes, subjects, exams, student details, all the way to school settings. Right, welcome back to another video. Now in this video we are going to look at how to create jobs in Laravel. Now when you look at the table exams, you can see that we have now the report form data that we just that we are now able to generate, of course, based on what we did last time. But now I want you to see something here. You can see that, for example, this student is in Form 1. And this student has, for example, I can see the position of the subject is 1 for the subjects. Now this data may not be reliable because, as you can see, is that when you look at this table, you can see their values which are null. So that tells you that this column fields have not been calculated. In other words, we don't have the points, the position, the grade. So it means that this data has not been actually, is not the correct data in short. So we can't say this student is in position 1 because there are places, there are column fields which have null values. So we don't want this. That's why now we come in and create what we call the jobs in Laravel. Now, how do we go about this? Let's come back to our text editor, and I need you to go to the terminal, then get git bash. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to run this command php artisan make, and then here this is going to be job, and then you're going to call the name of this job to be update exam course job. Now so I'm sure maybe this is not your first time hearing about jobs, but you can go and explore this in the documentation for the Laravel. So you can look for the Laravel jobs, and here you'll be able to see some things. So sorry, not Laravel jobs docs think. Yeah, so we have what we call the queues. Of course, it is one and the same thing, whereby we can queue jobs so that we are able to so let's go to the latest one. And you can see here how we create jobs in Laravel. So for example, we have this, just what we are now currently doing here. And of course, when you do that one, the next thing is now to create your class structure. For example, job classes are symbol. And of course, they normally contain what we call the undo method. So the undo method is the one that is invoked when the job is processed by the queue. And we're going to see all that in this. So you can just come here and read about it, but here we're going to do it practically so that you are able to understand how these jobs work. Right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to hit enter like this, and then it is going to create our jobs. All right, don't know why it is taking time, but okay. So let's go to update jobs exams course. And you can see now we have what we call the undo. So the undo method is the one that which is going to execute the jobs. So what will happen, it will put them in a queue so that the queue system is going to queue the jobs. And then when you run the PHP artisan queue work, it is now going to process all the jobs for you. Right, so, and then of course we have the constructor for initializing our variables. That is creating, of course, what we call the instance, the new job instance. And then from there, we can now come on the undo method and now execute whatever we have created. That is, for example, here, for example, we are going to pass the protected exam. So for example, what I'm going to do here is that here I'm going to have protected like this, and then protected, this is going to be not student, but this is going to be exam, because now we want to process jobs within the exams table. And you can see this is the table exams. Select all from exams. So that's what, so here we are just initializing this. In other words, we are defining this variable using the protected, that is access modifier. So it means that it can only be accessed within the method that you define this variable to. So we are going to have that, and then of course here, so within this create new job instance, we are going to have something else here. So here I'm going to have at param, and then here I'm going to pass. Now this param is going to be exam model. So here we're going to pass exam model. We're going to have the exam. So take note of this. So that's what we're going to have. Now within this constructor, what we're going to have here, we're going to say this exam, and of course we need to pass that parameter here. So you're going to have something like that. So exam, and then now we are going to call this. Now in executing the job here, we are going to have several things here. Now the first one is going to be, you're going to say exam is equal to this exam, like that. And then here we're going to have student is equals to student model. So here we're going to say find exam, then we're going to pass student ID, because here we want to get the exam for a given student. So that's what it means here. Now the next thing here we're going to do here, now we're going to pass whatever now we want the undo method to execute. And most of these things are the ones which are within the report cards. In the reports, so what we have here is within the reports. Yes, so on this component here, you can see we have this. So remember, this is the one that is being ran, and of course it's the one that is responsible for doing the different calculations. For example, determining the cut calculations. That is, for example, we loop over our exams. So actually here is where now we have the calculations. So we loop over our exams, and then from there we are able to use this, for example, this formula to calculate the CATS exam. Okay, so that's it. And then the CAT score as well as the average determined through the CAT score plus the final exam. And then you can see here we are able to get, for example, 90 So we add these two, and then we add the last one, and then we get the average mark. That's what we did earlier. Now we are going to take this one. So for example, here what I'm going to do is, for example, I'm going to say, now for example, based on that, so where is it? Just disappeared. So let's just get it again. So here we are. So for example, here I'm going to say average cuts. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it here, for example. So we want this undo method to execute such jobs here, so that once we get this, now we also pass the grade, the points, and the position, so that when the job is run, it can give us the correct tabulations of this, so that we are able to see that these are the correct details that we want. Now, since this code is already is the same as the one that is already in the reports card component, so I'm just going to paste it. Okay, so this is the one. So let me take this one, then paste it. So this code is still the same as the one in the report card component, the one we just did. So here, of course, we are converting the cuts. We are getting the average cuts. Once we get the average of the cut, of course, we know times 30, it's 70, then we get the average. And then, of course, we round off to a whole number. And then what else do we do? So based on this one, now we can call the method calculate grade, calculate points, subject position, generate remarks, which are the ones which are here. As you can see, they are the ones here. Calculate points, then map the grade to a particular letter. So for example, A or A minor, B plus, and so forth. Then calculate points. Then we generate the remarks based on the grade letter. And then, of course, the subject position, of course, which gives us the position of the subject. All right, so that is what we have. And then, of course, we can go ahead and export some items. So for example, let me just export them here. So for example, here we're going to use the model exam. We also have student. Do we have any others? So I don't think so. Now, once we do this one, the next item we need to do is something. Now this job, since now we have been able to generate, we have been able to define this job. So there's something that we need to do. So now we need to go to the exam seeder, which is this one here. So within this exam seeder, remember, is the one that now when we run the refresh seed, is whereby this is the seeder which is of course responsible for seeding our database with data. So what we need to do here, we need to go to just after the, after the teacher initials, and yeah, so here is where we need to execute. In other words, we need to dispatch the job. Actually, the command is even correct. That is the, yeah. So this AI is good. So here we need to update, that is update exam scores job, and then we dispatch this exam. So when it is going to be running, what will happen is that it will dispatch this particular given job that we have just created, the class job, and then of course it's going to dispatch the exam, which you already know it is this one here that we defined under the protected, and then we passed it through our constructor. All right, so that's what we need to do, and I believe we need to import this class. So we need to import it. Let me just say, okay. So it is from the app jobs, and of course you can see that when you go here, this is the app jobs, and then that's the subject. Okay. So now I want you to watch this. So I want you to watch this. You can see the null values here. So I want you to watch this. So what we're going to do, we are going to go to a terminal, and then here I'm going to run PHP artisan migrate, and then here I'm going to have fresh and then seed like this. So this is now the one that is now going to, so let's just rerun this again. just rerun this. CD in the database, student table seeder, and then the exam seeder. Okay, now once we do that one, finally we are going to run the Laravel's queue command, which is going to start processing our queued jobs. So these jobs have now been queued, so now they are ready to be executed. And we have said the execution, of course, is happening in the handle method. So what we're going to do here, we're going to run PHP artisan, and then here we're going to say queue. So the queue is going to be queue like this, and then here we're going to have so PHP artisan queue work, and then this queue work is now going to do the work for us. And as you can see, this is now what is happening. So what it is doing now, it is executing whatever is on the app jobs. That is the class update subject update exam scores job. Okay, so let me pause until this finishes. All right, so now it has been done, and what we can do, we can first come and refresh this, and you're going to see something. So you can see here now on the grade side, the point side, you can see there's a number of rows. So let's go to 50. Let's go to 50 rows, and you can see when you go to 50, even let's go to more, like 250. So what I want you to see is that, so you can see here, all of them have now been executed. The jobs have been executed, and we can now see all that. So now when you reload this, you notice that this student may not be in position 1. Okay, so we actually, because we have to do registration again. Okay, now when we go back again, review report card, you can see the student. I think this was the student I had. So you can see the student is in position 19. Then overall position is 32 out of 50 based on the stream. That is based on the entire stream, of course. Okay, stream position, and then this one is the overall position based on the entire class. Okay, all right, so that is it. If we go back again, and then we can check for another student. So for example, this student here, we can see that is in position 15 out of 30 based on this information is absolutely correct, because we have done the queue. We have done what we call the queue. So this is a powerful concept in Laravel. You may want to go and study it more. Now, somebody may be asking, do I have to do this, especially when this application is live? No. Now, we have what we call the, because I do have this application live, actually, I've had this application live. So what happens is there's what we call supervisor in Laravel. And what it does is there's a way you set it up so that when you take your application live, it is the one that will be able to process your jobs on your whichever host provider that you will have at that time. So once you set it up, what you need to do is that whenever you make any update to your report system, what it will do, this application, it will now execute or process your jobs just like the way we have done here. So in short, you not keep running the queue work. That's what we mean here. Once you set it up, and setting it up is very, very easy. All right, guys, so let's meet in the next video.